all right. No worries. No, I just threw it up so that I knew what the scores were and stuff. So
Awesome. Right, okay, cool. Yeah. Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we're here for the latest episode of the Sorare CSC, Celtic Supporters Club. I'm Quinny, and joined with me again, we've got McBride. McBride, good to see you. I see you grinning ear to ear. Good result of the weekend, wasn't it, bud?
Yeah, we're on form at the moment, so good time to be alive.
Sure. And we were coming into the game like pretty excited about it being like another good win, obviously for Celtic. But it was talking about the teams we were going to build, who might start for the manager, could we have some curveballs, and there was a lot of different like stories going on in this game. In terms of the Celtic actually on the pitch, but also in terms of some teams that have been picked and all the rest of it. We've seen Iwata start, we've seen Kobayashi start, and Haksabanovic, of course, all came in for the start. And I think we spoke about it quite a lot last week, how much Iwata was probably going to come in, but Kobayashi and Haxa was a big surprise, wasn't it?
I was a bit surprised at that. I mean, I was kind of more leaving Vickers and Jota out like completely, because I know we were having a chat about it and rotation risks, but most of the mad rotations have been kind of midweek games. You get a run of 3 games, and Vickers and Starfelt, he's been quite, he's just played them a lot, and it's one of those. We're 4-0 up and with a penalty and stuff, and we're cruising. But 5 minutes before the game, I'm thinking, this could be a banana skin here. There's no Hatate, no Vickers, no Jota. Jota's not on the bench. What happens if you end up losing an early goal at one of those daft penalty decisions or whatever? But we handled it really well. Obviously, getting the nice early goal was good, and played some really good football as well. There's a really sort of zip my about a lot, and it's good to see like Matt O'Reilly was really he was in top form. Everything he was doing was sort of working, and it was a weird one that it was just sort of complete hammering, missed the penalty, and then just all went a bit flatty. Calmack's mistake, and just then second half made some changes, and there was no real kind of impetus. But the game was won, so it was a brilliant performance. Like you just like everything was nice and relaxing apart from Sorare teams, which were all wrecked. I don't know about you, but I had Vickers in a couple of teams and Jota and 2 rare teams, plus I had him in all my limited teams as well. So pretty much it wrecked all my teams. And then the one team I had that was going, Calmack made an error, led to goal for the goal. So that destroyed that one as well. And the irony was that was the one with Nick College and stuff. So I wasn't really bothered about the clean sheet. I just needed them not to bugger something up. We buggered something up. So there we go. But it was a good win. I was just looking at scores there. So O'Reilly 100, Taylor 97. I think he was up at 100 at one point, and they've opted to have lost him a few points. Kobayashi put in a really nice base, so if I was really good on the ball, so 62.3 with no clean sheet. So that's quite
on possession, which is all passing statistics. 121 accurate passes.
That's quite interesting.
Final third.
I think like what Sean was saying about obviously having the left footer there as well, because a lot of times Starfelt plays there, he gets the ball and he looks a bit uncomfortable, and he passes it back to Vickers, like rather than actually like playing it out, so that was kind of interesting, and people are kind of raving about him because he was good on the ball and stuff, but I don't think it was a game where we were really pushed much at the back either, like Kilmarnock, obviously they scored a goal and stuff, but it's where Hearts made a couple of saves, but Celtic totally dominated that game, and they switched off in the second half. It was just one really, it was like the game's won type attitude, so but that's a nice kind of score from Kobayashi, because if he's going to come in at any point in those games at like Parkhead where we really dominate the game, you could see him racking up some really nice scores, which is good. So that's quite interesting. Johnson get booked, but he got an assist and he had 60. But again, he no real all around, because second half or whatever, we're not really sort of dominating so much. Maeda's get a goal. Furu's missed the penalty, and then it's come back out, and Maeda's missed it. So he's got a big chance missed for the rebound. You see that?
Yeah.
So that killed my team.
I was like that, mate. Because for anyone trying to keep up, so like when a penalty's won in the way it happened at the weekend, the player, if it's a foul or something, a decisive action, a good thing that turns your base score from 35 to 60 is penalty won. But you're only going to get that in your favour. So Greg Taylor was on to win this if the penalty is scored. So obviously Furuhashi misses the penalty, so he gets big chance miss. And I think penalty misses its own statistic as well.
-5 and -5, so you lose 10. So it's and then Maeda get -5. But I mean, I had Furu and Maeda in the same team that was going pretty well. So you're looking at like Furu's sitting on 65, going on to 75, 80 because you get shot on target. And it's went the reverse. So he said -10 and Maeda's in a big chance miss. Like,
I was absolutely.
Then he heard him turn it out.
I was, because I was in Dreamland. My team for the weekend was Taylor, McGregor, Dyson and Kyogo. So like you say, both of them at that point actually had some AA built up. And within that whole sequence, not only did I not just fly all the way to the top of the leaderboard, but the AA that the forwards got, they just gave it away. They never got it back for the rest of the match. Kyogo came off at half time, as well, which is a wee bit understated in the grand scheme of things. But we did call it. I feel like I at least bowed to O'Reilly was going to drop a 100 in this game. It felt like it was written. His form was improving every game. He was definitely going to play this match. It felt like, didn't feel like his position was in any jeopardy. And this kind of fixture away to Kelly is the sort of game where Matt O'Reilly can really get the game by the scruff of the neck. And one of the decisive actions he picked up, Mark, and I've put it in our group chat as soon as I seen it, was he got a clearance off the line.
Clearance off the line now. Yeah.
Kilmarnock put a ball in to the box in the first half, and I can't really remember the whole sequence of events. I think Hearts maybe came for it, but O'Reilly ends up being last man, and he gets the ball clear with a big head, and before he's done anything, it's straight on, clearance off the line, and his decisive score went from 35 to 60 straight away.
Yeah, and then he scored quite quickly after that, so he was like, I think he was on like 85 or 90 or something at half time. Like he was really motoring. Plus, we were talking about this before as well, but when there's no Moy there, he's taking all the set pieces as well. So he's getting all those, like, you take a corner and somebody gets the head on it, then you're getting like 3 points for key pass or whatever. Or like it's kind of like an attempted assist. So you get like, I think 2 for an attempted assist, and you get 0.5 of a point for penalty area entries as well. So even if you're just on sets and you're putting the ball in the box, you're kind of picking up wee points here and there and stuff for things like that. So it's interesting. But I mean, he's quite, well, in games like that, he just suits the matrix, and like Celtic dominated the ball, and these guys can do 50 or 60 without actually getting a goal or assist. So you get a goal or assist, you're on for a right big score. Iwata 45.8, but I thought he was probably better than that, to be honest. Like it was a kind of weird one. Like I was quite impressed by him, but I think he was kind of, because Celtic dominated the ball so much, he was trying passes that were quite ambitious. That way he was trying to put somebody through, and he was almost just giving the ball away. I thought he was really good. I thought he looked like a really tidy player, just kind of similar to Hatate, but not maybe as technical going forward as Hatate. So really looked after the ball, really solid, really good in possession, but maybe just not got that kind of cutting edge that Hatate's got, where he can do the 1-2 and get into the box, or he can maybe score a goal or whatever. But I think he's going to be a right good addition to what I really liked him.
He definitely impressed. I think you're right. 45 is a bit of an understatement on his performance, but looking at the stats, I think it's just a little bit of, he didn't do anything to, like, you looked at Kobayashi, 120 passes, Iwata's got 58, so I think it's just a little bit of, maybe just never got the volume of traffic compared to maybe some of the other players perhaps, but very impressive performance.
Didn't really, second half were not really dominating. So he's lost 5 points for possession lost, so he's had 10 for possession lost as well. And sort of generally speaking, obviously, he's had -2 for the goal conceded. He's lost a few duels as well, and he's had 7 missed passes. So he's lost about nearly 10 points based on possession, which I think he was actually trying. I think because Kilmarnock were pinned back so much, he was trying, and it was just kind of giving the ball away type thing. But I think it'll be a really interesting addition. He's the type of guy where next season I think he could cement some sort of place in that team. Like if you look at balance in midfield, I think it worked quite well. Haksabanovic was a bit disappointing, but again, I don't think really playing the right hand side really suits him. I think all his best stuff when he comes on is coming in for the left on his right foot. And when Jota and Maeda play, they sort of maybe Maeda starts on the left, Jota starts on the right, and then if it's not really working, they'll switch a wee bit. They'll just try and mix it up. Whereas Haksabanovic kind of stayed out on the right a lot, and didn't think it was his best game. But it was good to see him getting minutes as well, because these guys obviously they've contributed a lot, I think, to the season without maybe starting a lot of games. So it was good to see him getting a start. And I didn't think he was that good, but I think there's better to come from him as well overall.
Yeah, I was Haksabanovic, I was just about to say something on the position on him, but what I just noticed, Mark, when I was clicking through his score, is he won 4 tackles in this game, get 12 points for that, but he just didn't really do anything that, again, concrete terms of get much in the final third in terms of shots. So we have a sleeper performance from them, but I make you right. On that right hand side, I don't think we see the best out of Haksabanovic, and I would actually in a game like the one we've seen against Kilmarnock at the weekend. If we're not going to play Rio Hatate, I think Haksabanovic is not a bad doppelganger for what you get on him in possession and how quick he can cover 20 yards on and off the ball.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
I
think he played in a more central position for. I always get this wrong. I think he plays for Montenegro, doesn't he? Not because he used to be in Serbian Montenegro, so he's Montenegrin. But he played central for them as well. Yeah. So I think, and he is quite a sort of versatile player as well, because he can play sort of left wing, right wing, attacking midfield, maybe even slightly deeper. That's a nice thing to have. And I think we all said it. I think if a reasonable amount of money came in, Andrew would probably let Turnbull go. So having guys like Haksabanovic who can come on and affect a game or cover for injuries, or just it might force his way in at some point, but I just don't really see how he'll get in front of Maeda and Jota the way they're playing. But you just never know, form comes and goes and stuff, so you just don't know. I think if we play big games in the Champions League and stuff, we'll probably more go putting a Wata in there for being a bit more solid. Ange's not really the type of guy to say, right, we're just playing a free at the back, and he kind of wants to stick to his system, doesn't he? And so I don't think he'll tinker much with the back four and stuff. So, but it was a really good performance. Played really well on the ball. I thought it's good.
One thing, because we've all been waiting to see Iwata and McGregor and how the midfield might develop, but I think this game, and I hate, Mark, when I hear people talk about, it's a double pivot and it's two. I don't think anything changes, but the guys on the pitch have that decision of maybe both of them sat for 2 minutes. But I didn't see anything from Iwata and McGregor that I've not seen from McGregor and Hatate. I've not seen it. I didn't see anything different. But one thing that I did think really did blossom with Iwata being in there, maybe being a bit more secure, like you say, he didn't really put I think everyone was impressed with his kind of posture on the pitch. He did have a presence and not much get by him. It was Greg Taylor, who, as you mentioned earlier, dropped in 97, but he was really running midfield in that game. He could really go anywhere in the pitch, and it felt like he had a lot more freedom to go anywhere and do anything he wanted. Looking at the way he picked up points, 25 on possession points, 16 accurate final third passing, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles as well, 11 duels won, 5 duels lost, and we're talking about duel rates for other people, but Head and Shoulders one of the best duellers in the match. And in the final third, 7 balls into the box that were completed, and 3-1 contests in the final third as well, which for a fullback is very impressive. He got his assist, of course, for the second goal, the third goal, and he could have had the penalty kick one.
O'Reilly, maybe. Yeah. I think it's a big statement, but he played tactically like Cancelo or Zinchenko. He was in the middle of the pitch, so Celtic could control a situation, and he was popping up in central areas, playing passes on the ball and stuff. And obviously the downside of that then is maybe McGregor and Iwata are covering for that a wee bit. So rather than McGregor getting on the ball and going forward, then Taylor was doing the stuff. But it's I think Taylor's been one of the most improved Celtic players over the last 2 years. He's always been quite solid, but I think he's improved loads and loads and loads on the ball. He's those kind of balls he plays in behind to Maeda and coming in and like getting involved in the play and stuff. He's been excellent. Like, and he was really, really good. He was really up for me. Obviously, he's an ex-Kelly player as well. So, the score is really accurate. Like, he had a great game, so it was well deserved.
I was just clicking through the score there as well because he did come on at half time. There was a wee bit of hoo-ha before the match about him because Jurgen Klinsmann was in attendance. But we've seen a big 45, and I say big because it's 45 minutes. It's a long time to come off the bench from O. It didn't really do anything in this match for me, really. I was a wee bit disappointed. I thought the match was there to have something happen in the second half. And with your national team manager, in attendance. And I don't know if you caught the Sky coverage, but they interviewed Klinsmann, and Klinsmann said, like, his words, I had him in the international camp and he left a big impression on me,
I see that. Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't say that lightly, and I'm sure he's not going to come over and say, oh, I'm iffy about him and I'm just coming here to watch a game of football, but he's obviously going to be politically correct in that sense, if you know what I mean, but that's still quite a thing to put against somebody, is he left a big impression. That's something that is quite a telling statement, I would suggest.
No, definitely.
I thought the booking was stupid in terms of the the high foot. I just don't think he should be going for that. I know he's dead eager and everything, and I know it's became a bit of a conversation, but I don't think
he almost get sent off, didn't he? Like, I mean, firstly, Celtic didn't play well in the second half, so like if he'd have been on and at the start of the game, you might have seen something different. Secondly, he only really got one kind of good chance, and it was the one Vata went down the line, played it across, and he's put it past. And when you look at the replay, he's got in front of the guy, but he's beyond the front post, so it looks like a bad miss. But he's trying to finish it and he's trying to get it round, and it was a good bit of movement. But I mean, Celtic didn't really. We took off Furu and then we really dropped off in terms of performance, and then we made changes as well. And obviously Turnbull and Moy both came on and had reasonable base scores, as did the young boy Summers. He ended up with 32, which is not bad for an 18-year-old, But at the end of the day, like the game was won, and it kind of had the feel of a pre-season friendly in the second half. It wasn't really the same intensity levels and things that you would expect. And even guys like Starfelt, he's done a 51, which is not terrible for a clean sheet, but thinking about a lot of games recently, he would probably be up in the 60s and the 70s for that type of dominant performance. But it was just it just wasn't a really great game in the second half. But the hard work was done. When you're clinical, when you're going 3-4-0 up after half an hour and you're taking all your chances, like, something to be said about that. We've had points in the Champions League and everything where you have 3, 4, 5 chances and not scored a goal at all. So it's good to see that confidence level and one chance, one hit, one goal type thing, punishing the opposition's mistakes, that type of stuff. So it's good.
Yeah. One thing I've just noticed looking at Starfelt, and it's probably one of the last things I've kind of got on this match, but he's not got the clean sheet, so he's not picked up the 10 points there. Conceding the goal, you lose 4, so that's a 14-point kind of swing you lose out on through that. But he's also got a BCM, a big chance missed in this match, for -5. So I make you right, on a different day, that's 70 points or something.
Yeah. I remember that Moy had the ball down the right hand side. He clipped it over. It just went over the defender's head, and Starfelt's headed it from 7 or 8 yards out and just headed it over the bar. But it wasn't one of those. It was like a glaring miss. It was just like he's had a chance as a header in the box, But I can see why they maybe have given it as a big chance miss, because when it's come over a defender's head, he's only standing 7 or 8 yards out, So if he gets it on target, then it's a different story. But yeah, I mean, it definitely could have been a different script. But I mean, I had really Challenger Super Rare was going really, really well, up at like 450 points or something. Then McGregor's done his error led to goal and ended up with 25. So he took off after that, so that's killed that team. But it's just one of those things. I mean, it's maybe a lesson learned from our point of view when we're looking at these games at Kilmarnock, just because of the pitch. I mean, the reasoning Ange's given is because of the 4G surface or whatever. He didn't really want to risk Vickers on that after a long season, and he said it didn't really do anything for Jota. I don't know what that means, but I think he's got an eye on the end of the season, and obviously home game next week, and then you've got the cup semi-final against Rangers. So yeah, a wee bit surprising. I didn't think we would really rotate that much, not having midweek games, but you just don't know. It's been a long season. You've had a mid-season World Cup. Vickers went to the World Cup. He came back. Celtic have played 5 or 6 games in a period of time where like the Bundesliga and everything's completely taken a break. So I think it's just he just wants to keep these guys fresh for pushing for the trophies at the end of the season, really.
It's probably a great way, McBride, of segueing us into this coming weekend. We've got the last game before the split, or the last home game before the split, at least anyway. I'm losing my marbles these days. Yeah, it's the last game before the split at home to Motherwell. So, like, coming into this game, like, I do think we will see the return of Carter-Vickers. I've got no reason to suspect we wouldn't see Jota come back, but there was a wee kind of bit of chat going around Thursday or Friday. Oh, Jota wasn't in training or whatever. So I don't really know how to feel about Jota for the weekend.
And maybe just, if he's made the decision he's not going to play him, maybe he's just giving him that extra time. It's an unusual one because earlier on the season, Jota was out and Celtic don't give as much information on injuries. But when we played Rangers away at Ibrox, apparently he had the flu. And like I remember Ange saying at that point, we were playing and he picked a really unusual team. It was like picked like James Forrest and stuff. And no offense, James Forrest, but you know, at that point you would have been saying like you're going to go with Jota and Maeda or whatever. And he said, "Oh, pick the guys who've been least affected by this virus or whatever." So I just hope it's nothing really unusual from that point of view. But I think he's just rested them. Whether or not he's more cautious with minutes next week, I don't know, but it's at home. It's a normal pitch. You've still got a full week before the semi-final against Rangers. You need to close the league out as well, you know. Obviously, it's good. We've pretty much closed it out, 12 points clear. But, you know, I think Ange's one of these guys where he'll want to close it out and then rotate rather than mess about too much. But I think on my mind now, I'm thinking Vickers comes back in and I'm just thinking, we'll just do something random, like just leave Starfelt out and give him a rest, or we'll just bring Bernabei in and just give Taylor a rest because Taylor's had a few injuries, so you know, does he just say, well, I'm going to freshen these guys up for the semi-final? I think if Hatati's going to feature in the semi-final, he'll maybe start on the bench next week and he'll maybe get 30 or 40 minutes just to ease him back in. But I'm not as sure as I was before the Kilmarnock game. That's kind of my thinking. I'm like, it's making me second guess a wee bit. It could be one of these games where he just goes, right, I'm going to play Ralston and Bernabei, you know, or I'm just going to give Kobayashi another game and I'm going to go Kobayashi and Vickers, and then I've rested both my centre halves for the end of the season. McGregor came off against Kilmarnock, which is hugely unusual, but he get 30 minutes rest, so I don't see any reason why he wouldn't play Calmac. But is it a game where they took Fuhrer off at half time, I think he'll want to keep Fuhrer firing. I don't think he'll mess about with him. But I think there's going to be a lot of questions there. I want to play full stack. I don't know about you, but Motherwell have been on good form. But I think that this could be a game we could win by a few to nil at home. It feels as if we're kind of running a bit unlucky on the clean sheets at the moment. Like penalties, McGregor doing something daft. You know, it's not really a game where
there's always something random. It's never a normal, like, oh, that was actually a really good goal by them, fair play. It's always something like random, isn't it? You know.
But you look at teams though, and you look at like say Liverpool just now, right? Because they're playing tonight while we're recording. So Liverpool, you just think with them going away from home, you think the other team's going to score. They don't look good at the back, whereas Celtic are really controlling games, and then they end up conceding a goal to these set pieces or penalties or doing something stupid. But you look through the game, you look at the XG and everything, and it's like the XG is always under 1. So it's not like we should be conceding 1 or 2 goals or whatever. It's like just feels as if it's not really falling into place. So it's interesting because Big Van Veen's been really good for Motherwell. He's been doing well, but then Celtic could just control the game to the extent that he's not in it. Like that's the difference. He could just not get a touch for the first 45 minutes at Parkhead. That's the big difference. But I don't know if you've thought about what you're going to do with your teams. I've not put a lot of thought into it, but I don't know. Just after getting hammered a wee bit at the weekend, I'm just thinking about whether it's maybe worth mixing it up a bit. Maybe even not going. Maybe even like usually I like to go with Starfelt and Vickers because I feel as if you get a clean sheet and you get one of those games where we dominate the ball a lot, like they can rack up 70s, 80s and 90s each, and you put that in and you get somebody who gets a decisive up front, you're talking podium material. But I don't know. Might mix up a wee bit, but then what will happen is he'll just trot out the full team. Maybe we'll win 5-0.
I don't think we're going to see too many changes from what started at the weekend.
Yeah.
I could see, I don't know, I could see the whole Starfelt Carter-Vickers thing, but depending on Jota, I wouldn't be surprised if the same team goes out again. To be honest, I don't think O'Reilly's position is in any danger. And like you say, if Rio's going to get brought back in gently, Iwata's doing A-OK, McGregor's ever present,
O'Reilly's been great.
Are nailed, And Taylor, I think, I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if we got the Carter-Vickers treatment for Taylor next week, right? But I think Taylor's had that one occasion this season, and who knows how many occasions the manager feels he's got he wants to do this with players in terms of giving them that respite in a busy period. But Taylor's had a random DNP absence thing earlier this year. So I hope he's maybe cashed that check in, as it were, and hopefully he stays in. But yeah, maybe Ralston could feature on the random as well. But
so I think Johnson has played a lot, hasn't he? I mean, and he's been excellent, but again, just the fact that he's left out Jota and Vickers and said, I want to rest these guys, suggests to me that he's thinking about either the semi-final or the end of the season for whatever reason. Might have just been pitch related. It might be that he just goes really strong and he wants to absolutely batter his way to basically confirming the title. Celtic win against Motherwell. You've got Rangers playing at Aberdeen away. I mean, technically speaking, the league could pretty much be over. But he just seems to be wanting to sort of freshen things up a wee bit. So the positions he usually freshens up are usually the full backs and the wide forwards, whereas the guys who play centre half, you don't get many changes. So I don't know. Maybe we're overthinking about it. I think how Kobayashi played, he might just go Kobayashi and Vickers, just give Starfelt a rest, just for the semi-final or whatever. I'm not suggesting Kobayashi might play against Rangers. I don't think he will. I think he'll go Starfelt and Vickers. But how well we've done in the game, I think he might just tinker a wee bit, keep a similar midfield, and then what's happening is Jota coming back in. I think he will come back in. The very worst, he'll play for the bench and he'll get 30 or 40 minutes or whatever, and he could still do 70 or 80 from there, whatever. And I think Fury will probably start, and then he'll just manage his minutes again. Just come off after 60 or something like that. Something similar, depending on how the game's going. So
I think so. It should be a good one as well, pre-split. And I think, as I'm listening to you talk there, McBride, I'm thinking, what is the manager's target he's aiming at here? And I think it has to be the semi-final, because that's a do or die situation. The league is the league, and and I think Ange is a huge crowd pleaser. He loves the fan service, and I think when you do, and he's not going to. I don't think he's a guy that's ever on Twitter or social media or anything, right? But see, when all the press and all the people start talking about, only so many points away from beating the Invincibles, and if you score this many goals, it's better than this manager. If he sees people get excited about that and ask him questions about it, Ange will want to deliver that for the fans. He won't personally want to I want to be the guy that does that. But if he sees the fans are getting buzzing about it and it's a thing, then he just loves leaning into that and giving us it. So I can imagine him wanting to boss the league every game as much as possible, but I think that semi-final is the one where you can't show up, in second gear or anything like that, or underprepared.
Yeah. I remember the trophy day last season, and everybody was thinking maybe you're going to get Scott Bain and all this sort of stuff, and he came out with Hart and Vickers and Starfelt. It was just I want to win another game. That type of
beat Tommy Rogic's last match, and both of them were on the bench, I think.
Aye. So it was just I'm going with my best team here. So so it's interesting, but obviously the semi-final, I know it's not relevant to SL5, but that's you beat Rangers, you get a first division team in the final, so it's 2 games away from winning a treble. So you've got to think about it, haven't you? You've got to sort of plan for it a wee bit, even if it is just freshening these guys up. And maybe we look at it, we say, well, Hatati's out, and so that's a big risk going without Vickers and and Jota, but maybe he's looking at it and going, well, Hatate's out, so if we play Vickers and Jota and they get injured, then we're going into these semi-final games and everything with 3 of our best players, and he's just making a decision to sort of rotate a wee bit. And we beat Kilmarnock 5-0 at the start of the season, and you look at that game and it was like Welsh, Jens, it was there was a few injuries. There was like before a European game or something, I can't remember, and like it was quite a rotated team in the one. So he's obviously just looked at that and thought we've got enough in the squad to go and win by a few goals here, even if we make a few changes. So yeah, it's interesting. But Motherwell are in good form. I don't think Celtic should take them lightly. You know, they've been scoring a few goals. They've been playing a lot better. They've been through a spell where they were conceding 2 and 3 goals, like almost seem to be every week. But they look a lot better overall at the moment. So I think we'll need to be on it. So I'm expecting pretty strong, but you know, I think there'll be somebody there from what you would regard as the best 11 that will get left in the bench. I think that's definitely going to happen, just based on what's happened at the weekend. So
yeah, I'm just looking at the teams that went out last time. I'm just noticing McGregor get sent off last. I think the last time we played Motherwell at Celtic Park. So let's hope he's not negative decisive 2 weeks in a row. That would just kill.
Can you? That's an interesting one. If you get sent off, can you miss the semi-final?
Don't think so.
If you violent conduct.
Or maybe if it's something like racism and violence and all that, and
head right on somebody
or something, do some of that then maybe.
Aye. So it'd be the league.
Overall, he's went for really strong defences against Motherwell. It's probably a part of the Van Veen treatment, you know. So So looking at the last one, it's just went away. But I know we were away from home in the last time we played them. But yeah, Juranovic, CCV, Starfelt, Taylor. Last time we played them away from home, and then the time before that, so earlier this season at Celtic Park, we won 2-1. And I can put this on screen for everyone that's watching. But Welsh and Jens actually away from home on that occasion, but still Juranovic, Taylor, and the rest of the team's full pelt. And I think we were dealing with a lot of injuries there. You know, back this. I don't think that this was a decision made out of personal selection. You know,
so it was left. I mean, Jens played a lot at the start of the season. I think Starfelt was injured, and
exactly.
Just keep coming back to this record that Starfelt and Vickers and Hart have had. Like when they all play together, like they've not lost a domestic game. Is that right? Like it's like 61, 62 games, just like not lost a game. So obviously it does work, you know. So I mean, Starfelt gets a lot of stick. I mean, he's not Beckenbauer, but it's because he looks uncomfortable on the ball. But his best qualities are defending. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I mean, Kobayashi having that option there where you've got a guy who's maybe a wee bit nicer on the ball as a good option. But you've got to be careful with these games as well, because Kobayashi's racked up a lot of passes and everything against Kilmarnock, and that's not a game we were under pressure. I wouldn't want to be like voluntarily putting him in against Rangers or whatever. You know, that's a step up from Kilmarnock. No offence to any Kilmarnock fans, but Kilmarnock are on the verge of going down, you know. So it's kind of horses for courses thing where you bring these guys in, maybe give them some cup games and all that sort of stuff, and make sure that they're moving forward. But he looks good. He looks good on the ball and stuff like that. It's just what's going to happen when he gets that test defensively, you know, might be a wee bit more difficult. So, but yeah.
I think you said something interesting earlier that I want to bring you up on before we close out, right? But see if the manager is thinking, like you said something like, if the manager's thinking, we don't have Hatate fit and available. What if because he doesn't tell us anything when he doesn't want to. What if Hatate's out for the rest of the season and we don't know about it? You know, and he's thinking about, let's get Iwata, McGregor, and O'Reilly and Taylor, and let's get them fluid, because when we get to the semi-final, we need to play this way because we're not going to have Rio. So let's make sure we don't lose, like you said earlier, let's not lose Jota and Vickers.
It could be that.
Maybe longer than what we've been told. You know.
He's obviously struggling. I mean, what he said about the Kilmarnock game was anybody who was close wouldn't feature. So if Hatate is close, then I think you'll find he'll be on the bench at the weekend. I don't think he'll be chucked back in after a hamstring. Like it'll be 20, 30 minutes here to sharpen him up a bit, and then decision about whether he plays in the semi-final. I know it's not relevant for SO5, but if you want to pick like Iwata, or if you want to pick O'Reilly, who are guys who rotate a bit, I think they should play. Moy's an interesting one because Moy doesn't look that sharp at the moment. Like obviously he's a wee bit older. He pulled out the Australia camp. He did sort of back injury, played against Rangers. Then he look at it, and then when he came on, I don't think he looked that sharp either. So will he give him more minutes to try and sharpen him up, or will it just be a case of give him another half an hour from the bench? But I just don't think you can leave O'Reilly out the way he's playing just now. He's just been last couple of games. He's been really good. I would just start him and then rotate from there. What do you think?
I think O'Reilly starts. I don't think you can drop O'Reilly at the moment. But I thought Moy looked really good when he came on, to be honest with you. I think he was just unlucky not to be on the end of anything or anything.
Yeah.
But O'Reilly's performance at the weekend and his game before that, I think he's now set the bar back where he's like, yes, my spot. I'm in the main midfield. I'm the best guy for the team, and he's really kind of grabbed the bull by the horns in that respect. And yeah, I think for the weekend, I think Moy just, he could have maybe just been a bit lucky. So he had a few attempts where he got into the box, knocked some shots and crosses about and whatever.
Yeah.
And as I say, just
and it's not for pitchy. I mean, he's the type of guy, like he's maybe like at his age takes him a couple of games to get back to peak fitness as well. So I know myself, like takes a bit longer these days. Takes a bit longer, but like we're comparing him to how he was playing before he got injured and how he played after the World Cup, where that goal he scored in the cup against Hearts, but it came over and he just had it with his left foot. That was brilliant. Like it was poetry in motion stuff. So, and he scored the goal where he lobbed the guy and stuff. So he's capable of better, but second half we didn't really play well at all. But again, I think I suppose it could go maybe McGregor, Moy, and O'Reilly, but I don't think Moy and O'Reilly work that well, and you never really see them starting together. So I think he'll just leave Awata in there with McGregor and go with O'Reilly, and then just do the rotation later on. Because we need to win this game as well. If you start losing games at this point, and all right, it's 12 points, but if you lose and then you go to Ibrox and you get beat, then all of a sudden it's that type of scenario. Are we going to shit the bed? And we're not, but like Angel want to keep the foot in the pedal, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're going to pick a best SO5 for the Celtic team this weekend, you obviously are going to go with Hart and goals. I'm torn this week. I actually now finally own a rare Carter-Vickers, so I'm torn. I don't know if I'd go Carter-Vickers or Taylor as being in the best. If you're to pick one defender this week, but maybe it'd be Alistair Johnson. But I don't know if I can trust any of the back four this week. They'll probably all play, but all of them are a wee bit like, maybe him. So I don't know how I feel about that.
I think Vickers will come back in. Like I think after getting a rest, I don't think he'll want to leave him out for 2 games before playing Rangers. So I think Vickers a safe bet, and the other spot will be Starfelt or Kobayashi. Taylor's been playing great, and he does look as if he's buzzing, but if you are going to rest him in a game, or you could start Bernabei and bring Taylor on later on or whatever. So that's an interesting one where we do that. And then midfield wise, I think Iwata, McGregor. I think Matt O'Reilly is actually a really good. You were talking about who's a good prospect for a big score. Like I think Matt O'Reilly will start. I don't think Moy will start with him, so O'Reilly's going to be on the set pieces. So I think he's going to rack up a good base. So he gets a goal or assist. You're talking about into the 70s and 80s there, because you've got that decisive action plus obviously the base score going with it as well. And then up front, obviously, Furu's going to feature in some way, so you would expect him to score in some form. Maeda came off at the weekend, so he's had his minutes managed. So you probably expect him to start with no Abada fit in the squad and stuff, and then it's whether or not Jota comes back in for Haksabanovic. Jota may well come back in and start, or he may well come back in and he might just leave Haksabanovic there and bring Jota on for the last 30 or 40 minutes. But I think with Jota, you might not be as inclined to captain him, but I think he's quite capable of doing 70 or 80 in half an hour at the end of the game. So I don't think I'll have any real issues with playing him after Ange just said he just rested him. So yeah, I think I'll have at least one team where I'll have all my Celtic guys in, but it might be something along the lines of Hart, Vickers, O'Reilly, Jota and Furuhashi, something like that. That's not my usual setup, but I'll need to have a think about it. But I want to. I think it's a game we we'll do well. You know, playing at home, we always score a few goals, touch wood. So if we can just get rid of that daft stuff at the back or whatever, you know, then, you know, you could see that nice lined up clean sheet with all the A's and all the decisives
All the
and
big
stuff.
80s. Yep. Hope for one of those days. One of those Ajax days, you know, where you rattle somebody 7-0 and everyone brings in a 75 plus or something. It doesn't matter who you picked and what your team was, you know.
And I know I shouldn't be raging, but I still am. Remember when we had that game we played Aberdeen away and we won 1-0 when the World Cup was on and Sorare didn't cover it?
Aye.
And
we bossed it.
We bossed that game. I mean, Aberdeen, I don't know why they played that way at that point. I think it was quite close to the point where the manager got sacked. But I mean, Celtic really put up some really, really high scores at that point and would have won. You would have won something SO5 live that weekend. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, the game was
mate. Oh, the scores are frightening.
Yeah.
McGregor 100. Oh,
I know. He's done 100. The game where it wasn't. I'm not going to swear now. I'm calm. We're going to win the treble. Shut my mouth.
No forwards. The forwards didn't get much on that day, but so I'm not that annoyed, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, it's you're going to have like I would have been.
I had a tattoo my forward card right enough, so 53 points. I'd have been all right with that.
Yeah. Well, I'd have been playing for like McGregor and Hart and Starfelt, Vicker, that type of stuff. So anyway, but I mean, it just shows you if you can get that clean sheet at home, then all the possibilities are open. I've not really had much of a look about what else is going on at the weekend. I know challenger wise, like Ajax have had some good fixtures, and even like PSV and some other guys with some good fixtures. So obviously you've got to have a look about. Zenit have had a couple of tougher ones, so they probably have some sort of home bashing lined up. Let's see.
Portuguese clubs kind of let themselves down at the weekend. I've seen Sporting Lisbon. I think they lost to Rio, and then
Porto conceded right at the end. So Zenit are at home to Dynamo Moscow. So although Dynamo Moscow have not really been pulling up any trees this season, but they are fifth. So that could be quite a good home fixture. Benfica have got the Champions League against Inter, so they might not be that fresh for the weekend. So yeah, it could be a good weekend. I don't know if there's any other overwhelming games, but even guys like teams like Man City, who you usually think, Arsenal play Southampton at home, so you don't think of them in terms of challenger, but overall in terms of all-star and stuff, you would imagine they'll want to really bounce back from giving the 2 goals away and stuff. And Southampton have been really poor this season, so they might get a doing by a few. But yeah, I mean, it's a good weekend for Celtic cards, even if you maybe pick out like sort of Vickers, O'Reilly, if you want to put them in with some of your teams. I think there would be some good shouts for some nice high scores.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I think, Vickers, O'Reilly is probably the best shout for base. And then, I don't know, just with the wee Jota question mark going into this game, I don't think you can go too far wrong with Furuhashi and Adaiza Maeda these days. So, a solid 5 to run with for the weekend.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking forward to it.
So what I'll do is I'll just run 8 variations and get 7 of them wrong again.
I suppose, if you don't mind, I'll get your take on one last thing, or we'll chew one thing over together before we cut and go, if you're all right with that. We got a wee bit of news earlier today in our group chat. Liel Abada seems to be on the brink, or edging closer, or whatever. I don't know what the exact term was, but rumour has it he's on the way to Ajax, which, should be a big fee for the club. You'd think Ajax spend a lot of money on players that they want, especially good kind of wonder kid types. They spent something like 20 million on that Mohamed Kudus from Midtjylland in Denmark or something. They spent proper money on him, like big money.
Yeah, 22 million for Bassi as well. It was a really quite a big deal.
That was a funny one, right? Because all the Celtic fans that love to go through Rangers accounts and expose stuff. Apparently, the Bassi deal was recorded somewhere on official books as like, bugger all of what they said in the first place. So I don't know how to feel about that. But yeah, reportedly there was a big fee
in the media,
for Bassi.
And unless it's one of these ones like what Chelsea do now, where they buy guys for 80 million and pay them up at 10 million a year or something, because it could be an installments type thing because it's a big fee. But I mean, back to Abada, he's an excellent player. I think his goal record and stuff speaks for itself, but I don't think he's ready just to go to like the EPL or whatever just now. I'd love to see him go to Ajax or Leverkusen, like Frimpong's done. I watched Frimpong the other night, and he looked great, and he looks as if he's come on there. So if Abada goes and he goes to somebody like Ajax, it'd be really nice to see him go there, get game time, and keep developing before maybe he gets his big move. But that would be, I mean, from an SO5 point of view, then you're in dream world, aren't you? Like, you see a guy's moving to Ajax, if he nails a spot in that team there, then you're laughing. And yeah, it'd be a great club for him to go and develop at. And if Celtic could get, I think you would be looking for at least 12 million, I think, for him. I think you could get more, because Ajax will spend money on somebody if they really fancy them. So if you could try and get 15 million plus in this climate, then that would be good business. And he's out at the moment, and we're not really missing him. I wouldn't have thought, like, he's been really good. He's scored loads of goals, and you need to place those goals. But I don't feel as if as a team we're really missing him much at the moment. So if that money comes in, I think Celtic might be inclined to take it.
Yeah. There may be some Celtic fans that listen to a wee bit of this, McBride, and they think, well, what does Ajax give them that Celtic doesn't? It's a small league. They're only playing in Europe, similar to us, yada, yada, right? And I agree with that to an extent. Like, I would much rather, if you're going to leave to go and try and further your career, try and go Bundesliga, try and go to a top 5 league or something, right? But Dutch football is wildly different to Scottish football. And Ajax, in the way we structure deals, you mentioned Frimpong there, everyone's mentioning how we're on 30% of the profit on the deal or whatever. That's the clause that Celtic have on that. Ajax sell players for lots of money, like lots and lots of money. And they sell players to Barcelona, they sell players to Man United, they sell players to everyone that kind of we don't really sell to at the moment. So if we sell them up front for a big wedge, like you say, and then the way Celtic build deals, like we tend to build deals, Abada could be a great 2-season servant to the club and on the pitch and off the pitch, So it's one of those ones where it's just kind of, it's the economics of it. We're not missing him now on the pitch, as you're saying. And I would love to see him stay at Celtic. I think we can develop him to, the next stage of his career. I don't think it's going to be wildly different developmental-wise, being at Celtic next season or being at Ajax. But I do think if he thinks to himself, I want to be at the elite level in 2 years rather than 3 or 4, maybe Ajax can help him do that because of Dutch football and, the transfer path players tend to follow in that respect. So
depends who else comes in. I think, like, depends who else money comes in for. So if there's interest in Abada and he's on, I think he's got 3 years left in his deal, something like that, and Celtic wanted to give him a bigger contract and he's turned it down. That's the rumour. So obviously because of that, then the news is Abada wants to leave. But you've heard all these things in the past. But also I think what's going to be key is who else goes. Do you get big money for a Hatate or a Jota or something? Because that might change the plans as well. Do you really want to sell, say, Jota and Abada, and then you've got 2 wingers to replace and all that type of stuff? But if you could sell him, and obviously Juranovic left and Johnson's come in and has been excellent. So if you could move him on, take that money in the Champions League, maybe a bit of money for Frimpong, no budgeting issues or anything there. So there's no issue with saying, right, no, we're just going to make sure we're, even if it's 15, 20 million comes in for Jota, we're just going to say to him, you can go, but you're not going this season, that type of thing. Whereas if you don't get that deal for Abada and somebody comes in with 20 million or something for a Jota or a Hatate, we'll probably sell them, won't we? It'll be like a kick to the nether regions, but probably that's our model, and just bringing these guys in from Japan for 1 or 2 million, and we're talking about £20 million bids. I wouldn't be surprised with £20 million bid for Hatate. He's absolutely brilliant, but it would be really, I'd be gutted to see him go a lot more so than Abada. But he's been excellent. There's no doubt about it. He's scored loads of goals, but he doesn't always start games and stuff like that. So he feels as if it's somebody that you could say, well, okay, and he's only 21. So he could go to Ajax and he could really develop into a really good player there. So I'd like to see him do something like that, not just go and rot on the bench somewhere in England or whatever. It'd be good to see us selling guys to these teams who develop top young players. So
yeah, that's it. So I'll be getting more money for the players when we sell them. That's the name of the game. So if it's Ajax, it's in the Dutch league. It's just one of those things where you just got to accept kind of, you know, where it is in that respect. That's kind of how I see it.
They're doing the same as us on a larger scale. So they're buying guys for 10 and 15 million that have already maybe proven to be good.
Yeah.
And then they're selling Anthony to Man United for 80 million, and they're selling Lisandro Martinez for 70 million. Whereas we're buying guys from Japan for 2 or 3 million, or we're pushing the boat out a bit and we're spending 6-7 million in the option for Jota, we're spending 6 million Carter-Vickers, or we're spending 5 million Furuhashi. But when we spend 4, 5, 6 million in players, and then somebody comes in with 20 million, you know, our turnover's only just north of 100 million a year. So like that's a lot of money to a club like Celtic. Maybe not an EPL club or whatever, but for us, budget wise, that's a huge amount of money. It's like getting in the Champions League or something, you know. It's a big deal. So if that's the model, and that allows Ange to go and bring in 3 or 4 guys, or just shape the squad or whatever, then I think you got to back him now. Like, you see the quality of the guys we've brought in. Like, I'm not seeing really many bad signings there. So look like good players. So he goes and gets somebody like Mitsuta, or you know, the guys like you know, you get in Japan. Like, we all know the kind of guys who really do well in SO5 and stuff, who are young, the talented guys like that. You know, you could easily see somebody like that coming in, and all of a sudden you're like, hang on, how have we managed to do that? We've got like 15 million in, and we've got this guy in, and he looks like a baller, that type of thing. Iwata's looked excellent, you know, but he was a J League MVP, so why is everybody surprised with that? The guy was the best player in the league. Why are we so surprised that he's able to come in and play in Scottish football? You know, it's just good recruitment. So
yeah, big time, man. And and Ange we trust, I think. Thanks for joining us, everyone. McBride's been an absolute pleasure. Hail, hail.
Welcome.